your host, Corporal Tim Thornton, and I'm here today with Mr. Chuck Bayless, Executive Director from the Military History Society of Rochester. It's a military history museum, and if you would, Mr. Bayless, tell us all about your museum, a little bit about yourself, and then at the end tell us how to get a hold of you and your museum.
Very good, thank you very much. Yeah, the Military History Society of Rochester started about 7 years ago because we had really discovered that within our local community there was no place that really dealt with military history. So we have our charter from the Board of Regents of the State of New York as a historical society with collections. We're located in the Anderson Arts Building, which is at 250 North Goodman Street, corner of Anderson Avenue and North Goodman Street. We're up on the second floor on the east end of the building. And we deal in U.S. military history from the War of 1812 up through current times. And we try and focus as much as we can on local history. So throughout the exhibits, there's a lot of things that really relate to Rochester, Monroe County, and surrounding areas. We started the War of 1812 because during the Revolutionary War, there really was nothing in this area. You know, it was basically wilderness, and during the War of 1812, there really was quite a bit of activity. So potentially some other point when we come down, we'll talk a little bit about the War of 1812.
Can I interject?
Sure.
You just picked up on a subject that I don't know how to explain it, but I was online and I was talking to some people from Canada. Well, they were leaving that Twitter type of message. Mm-hmm. So later, when you're done telling us all about this museum that you have, are you able to talk about the tactics of the battles of 1812?
Well, what I can talk about is a couple of the battles that happened around Rochester at the port of Charlotte, and some of the naval battles that were fought in the Great Lakes, especially on Lake Ontario. So that would be something that we have a large exhibit on down at the museum itself.
Well, let me just throw this out there. Did you know the Canadians think that they won that war?
That's what I've heard, and I think that if you look at it, most historians basically say it was a war that nobody won. That there were actions that were fought after the peace treaty was signed. In fact, the Battle of New Orleans was fought after the war was over. And even though the British lost, it still wasn't part of the war, but they still lost. So it's kind of some interesting history, but I may as well talk a little bit about the one unit that was raised in Rochester during that time, and it was a company of dragoons. And dragoons are basically light infantry that are mounted on horses. So they'll ride to the battle, hop off, and do their fighting. Well, in 1814, there was a company that was raised by Oliver Stone, and that's who Stone Street is named after. And he heard that the British were coming at Charlotte, so he took his men, all 33 of them, went out to Charlotte. And yes, in fact, the British were coming. They had a small little earthenware fort that was kind of beside a small hill. So what he did is he took his men from back of the hill, ran them into the fort, had them duck down, run back out around the hill again, and do that several times until the British says, hey, there's a whole bunch more of them than us. So they got on their boat and left. So that was the Battle of Charlotte.
Well, I like that. Well, nobody said the British were smart, All right, good.
But we have quite a bit about the Civil War and local units. Of course, the one that most people know the most about is the 140th New York, which was Patrick O'Rourke's unit. But there are some very interesting stories about that. Reynolds Battery was the artillery battery that was raised in Rochester. And again, there's some very interesting stories about that. We have one section that we call our Made in Rochester section, which is all kinds of things from our area that were made for the military effort. The oldest piece being a Civil War cap box that was made by a company that was down on State Street, Pritchard & Brothers, that before the war and after the war made cases and valises and canes and whips. But that's the oldest. World War I, we have quite a few things. World War II, we have obviously quite a bit. Later periods, up until about a year and a half ago, Sealed Bag Company on Lyle Avenue packaged MREs for the military. But they closed down. I mean, they didn't make the MREs, but did the packaging. You know, going into our World War II section, we have, again, a lot of things that are Rochester related. We are just completing a B-17 exhibit. We have a crewman fully dressed with the leather clothing that and the boots, etc., that would have been worn. Mae West. The parachute that he's wearing, which is something we never thought we would get, was made by the J.G. Monahan Shoe Factory here in Rochester. And they made not only parachutes, but also leather goods like flight caps. And the radio is Stromberg Carlson. There's a what's called a free air gauge, which is a temperature gauge to let the bombardier know what the outside air was in calculating his bomb drops. And we've just put in a Norden bomb sight, all the optics of which were made of Kodak. So there's a lot of really kind of good stuff, you know, cool stuff there. You know, we have, you know, quite a few of the military weapons. We have one display of long arms that goes from Revolutionary War up through current times, and that gives the whole transition of U.S. military long arms. So again, really kind of nice stuff. But there's a lot to see, and like I said, in a future segment, I'll be bringing some stuff down that we can, you know, we can show some of what we have.
I got one more thing for you. How, on the cusp, you know, like you're not ready for this, but could someone grab that black round case over there? It's an IR device made by Bosch and Lomb. So what I'm getting is, you really want stuff from Rochester that's war related or military related in your museum.
Yes.
That does make it very interesting. So we're on the air. We're going to open this up and tell me what you think. I'm pretty sure I remember reading this as the case says something else. Isn't that the one that's Bosch Lomb?
No, this one's Brooklyn.
Oh, you know what? It's that other wooden box over there behind the flashlights. Well, you know, it's video. We can always... What do you think of this? It needs battery. But I guess it's an IR infrared night vision scope, but it's World War II. And I think a lot of guys like myself would never guess that we had night vision in World War II. So now this has got to be the Rochester, New York, Bosch and Lomb Optic Company. So what this is a sextant of sorts.
Yeah, this is what was called an optical sextant, and it was used as in navigation aids in aircraft to help them actually do celestial navigation. Again, it was a very, very common one, you know, that was used, and there were other companies other than Bosch and Lomb that made it, but it's a very, very interesting, you know, object itself, in that they're using the alignment of the stars to do the navigation.
I have some more sections that are older. So the next time you come out, maybe we'll do a comparison of, I have a Russian one, I have an old World War II one that I swear someday I'm going to learn the mathematics, but it actually writes out the mathematics to read the stars, to know exactly where you are, no matter where you are.
Yeah.
And then we got this one.
Right.
So now, if you could tell everybody about where the museum is, which you already stated, but the website and.
Okay, sure. Yeah, our website is rochestermilitary.com, and it actually has quite a few photos of the what we have in our collection. It also has a nice little map to show you how to get there, because the first time it's always a little difficult to find, at least most people have said so. We're at the east end of the building, and you come down Anderson Street, go around the building to the alleyway between Village Gate and the Anderson Arts Building, big yellow fire door, come in that, walk up to the second floor, start walking, and you have no trouble finding us. We're pretty obvious as to who's there.
That's great. And thank you, Chuck. I really appreciate you coming on the show tonight.
Very good. And look forward to being back again.
You know what I'd like to do is, if as we get more things in for the show, you would obviously be a great person to tell us a little bit about it.
Absolutely, love to do that.